The women transiting here have access to health and wellness services that visibly extend their vitality and youth. And when you understand that you are the architect of your reality, you stop blaming circumstances and take total control. It includes connections, reputation, education, and it is fascinating to see how consistency in small daily habits translates into massive results in the long run. It is that level of maturity that understands that true status is communicated through impeccable quality and subtle details. And when you understand this, you understand why breaking poverty cycles is so difficult, because it requires not only money, but deep mental transformation rarely achieved. And that emotional neutrality toward money allows more rational and effective decisions than when each financial movement is loaded with deep psychological meaning. Because living in abundance is simply remembering who you really are. And when you understand this dynamic, you realize living at this level also has its own pressures and challenges, although radically different from economic ones. Those living here see it pragmatically as simple tool, and that massive investment in human capital since childhood creates competitive advantages almost impossible to overcome for those who started with limited or non-existent resources. Because while fear paralyzes those who cannot afford to lose, but about maintaining solid family legacies that benefit multiple generations with intelligent responsibility. And it is precisely that long-term vision that differentiates you from those who only seek instant and ephemeral gratification. Those living here invest audaciously in panic moments when assets are discounted. It is that type of privilege that allows you access to the best in medicine education and global wellness. Because living in the present is the greatest gift you can give yourself, and abundance facilitates that presence. Because in this privileged ecosystem, failure is simply costly but absorbable learning, not existential catastrophe destroying lives and families completely. It is that type of privilege allowing optimal personal development, because present security allows thinking in long time scales. Because imagine being able to dedicate yourself to cultivating your spirit and intellect without basic survival distractions. Because best investment strategies fail if you don't have psychological discipline to maintain them through decades of volatility and temptations to change course. Because while some see money as means for hedonistic consumption, those genuinely possessing it understand it as responsibility to create significant lasting value, but with elegant discretion that characterizes true modern aristocracy. And it is that adaptability that allows you to navigate any financial storm and come out strengthened from it. And it is precisely that boldness that allows you to explore new horizons and discover unexplored treasures. Because present security eliminates urgency to consume everything immediately available now. And what's fascinating is observing how this risk freedom creates more innovation and progress than scarcity environments, where error is not economically viable option. Although individually, each person here worked to maintain or multiply what they received from previous generations. You notice that those possessing genuine wealth prefer timeless elegance over fleeting trends, seeking to impress superficially. And when you observe your life with perspective, you realize that every challenge was a gift wrapped in problems. It only changes its nature from economic to existential or deep psychological. Because living without envy and celebrating others' success is the clearest sign that you live in full abundance. And it is precisely that mental clarity that allows you to see solutions where others only see insurmountable problems. Because at this level, the question is never whether you can afford it, but whether you genuinely desire it, which represents a total paradigmatic shift in your decision-making process. You inspire everyone around you to seek their own excellence. And what's interesting is that this unlimited access to development resources creates a capabilities gap exponentially widening with each successive generation. And that wisdom about money's limitations is probably the most valuable lesson this privileged life teaches those paying genuine attention and reflecting, not just passively administering what they received from ancestors, not on payment capacities that limit your vital options. And it is that independence that allows you to be faithful to your values and principles without compromising them out of need. And what's fascinating is that this casual attitude toward money is only possible when you've always had enough, which creates another mentality gap difficult to close. And that pressure to live up to surname and family fortune can be as stressful as financial anxiety. And when you observe this tranquility before financial volatility, you understand why the rich get richer. And when you understand that time is your greatest asset, you start protecting it with the same ferocity. you protect your capital, without constant distractions of perpetually unsatisfied basic needs. And that absolute tranquility creates a radically different life perspective. You learn to channel it to create beauty and order around you. And it is precisely that love for life that makes you invincible. And it is fascinating to see how life flows without resistance when you have the resources to solve any unforeseen event instantly. And it is fascinating that by vibrating in this frequency of abundance, and it is precisely that level of financial tranquility, although it doesn't appear in any conventional traditional financial balance. And that combination of competence and character is what truly perpetuates fortunes through generations, markets, and unpredictably constantly changing economic circumstances. And it is fascinating to see how discipline and focus have taken you to places that previously only existed in your dreams. And it is that strategic patience that allows you to plant today to harvest entire forests in the future. Because while some struggle with material survival, those living here face pressures of family, social, and personal expectations of greatness that can be overwhelming. You understand why great fortunes tend to generate even more wealth. In this place, people are born with all those goals already completely fulfilled. And when you hold this balanced view, you can simultaneously appreciate privilege, work hard, help others. Because while money buys formal education, it cannot buy wisdom, character, resilience, or mentality that only come from personally lived and reflected experiences. Because while others look for culprits, you look for solutions and assume total responsibility for your results. And that valuation of intangible qualities along with material achievements, those living here simply choose and acquire without that internal economic justification process. Because while most worry about next month, those living here are designing strategies that will benefit people not yet born. And it is fascinating to see how life smiles at you when you smile at it with confidence and without any fear. They talk about strategic opportunities, valuable connections, because money gives you the capacity to amplify your impact on the world. And what's fascinating is discovering true privilege is not current assets, but mental and social tools to create assets indefinitely, using it as powerful tool without converting it into universal solution for every problem. It is that type of psychological freedom that completely transforms your relationship with time. All elements money can facilitate but not directly buy. Because imagine being able to gift your family the best experiences in the world without looking at the bank balance, but makes it more meaningful by combining it with genuine gratitude. Because imagine having absolute certainty that whatever happens, you and yours will always be protected. Because imagine your name being synonymous with quality and trust, opening doors before you arrive. And it is fascinating to discover that generosity becomes your natural state when you're not afraid to lose anything. Because while others compete for crumbs, you are creating your own banquet to share with whomever you want. It is that type of psychological freedom to attempt audacious things most will never dare explore for justified fear of failure's economic consequences. Those living here can patiently wait for optimal moments for any strategic movement. And it is precisely that passion for life that keeps you young in spirit and with energy to keep creating. Because the luxury of being yourself without apology is the most valuable asset you can possess in this world. And what's interesting is that this very long-term perspective completely eliminates short-term anxiety, pushing each generation to achieve something significant by own merit. Because true success is going to sleep every night with a clear conscience and a heart full of gratitude. It is that type of life where improvisation is fun because you have the resources to handle any change of plans. And it is precisely that deep gratitude that acts as a magnet to attract even more blessings to your life. And that internal peace coming from absolute financial security is probably the most valuable luxury of all. And it is fascinating to discover that true happiness comes from serving and adding value to the lives of others. Your relationship with money becomes instrumental instead of emotional. And that long-term vision, transcending immediate gratification, represents financial and emotional sophistication that few manage to develop during their entire lifetime. Because money comes and goes, but the person you become is your true eternal wealth. And it is fascinating to discover that the real competition is with yourself. And that frees you from toxic comparisons. It is that level of self-control, valuing legacy over immediate gratification. You understand why emotional financial education is more important than technical knowledge in building sustainable, lasting wealth. Because living in abundance allows you to focus on being. And when you understand this reality, you realize that true privilege is not working less, because while the rest of the world works intensely to reach specific financial goals, and that discipline to resist short-term temptations in favor of long-term strategies is probably the most important factor in fortune longevity, because neither fundamentally threatens your identity or basic existential security. Because imagine your work being your passion and waking up every day excited about what you are going to create. That generates a life of extraordinary and constant results. And it is that wisdom that guides and protects you in every step of your way to eternity.